Your next promotion is just the beginning, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 176. Speaking of your next promotion just being the beginning, today's episode is all about understanding how to create that 3X vision for yourself. And I'm going to be sharing with you some of the 3X visions of some of the corporate badasses inside of my programs, as well as how they're beginning to actually create that 3X vision and make it into a reality. Let's get started. Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out, because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms. Hello, corporate badasses. Welcome to another episode of Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer. I'm super excited, as always, to be here with you again this week. So I've been furiously working away on my second book this week, last week, these past couple of weeks. And I'm sharing this with you because I'm getting so excited about what's to come next and getting this first draft off to my publisher by the deadline. But the funny thing about it is that you won't actually see this book until 2024. And I say that because it's actually a little bit of an intro into today's episode. How we have these long-term goals, we have things that we want to have happen in the future, but then we have immediate things that we have to put in place in order for that long-term goal to take place. And it can be very contradictory because I want instant gratification. I want to be able to give this book to you today. I want to get the feedback from this book. I want to build on my momentum, all those great things. But because I've already written one book, I know what's actually going to happen, which is that I'm going to work my butt off for several months. And then I'm just going to be sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting until I'm actually able to release the book out into the world. But it's exciting, and I'm excited, and I can't wait to get this out to you. If you're not already on my email list, make sure you get there very soon, because I'm talking a lot about what the book's about. I'm offering resources. I've been celebrating by giving a huge discount to executive ahead of time. And you can get access to all of this information just by going to stacymayer.com/email, signing up, looking at my emails. They're so impactful. And women have told me over and over again that they've gotten promoted just by the free content that I'm putting out there. So definitely check that out, especially if you're a fan of this podcast. You're going to want to be getting on my email list and really benefiting from everything else that I have to offer you. So today's episode, as you've already gathered, is about future visioning. And I have a process that I teach called 3X your vision. And you've heard of like goals and, future vision, maybe even a vision board, different techniques like that for us to obtain like big, scary goals. Well, there's been a lot of talk inside of Executive Ahead of Time lately about 3Xing your vision. And I realized that I haven't touched on that process enough recently inside of my podcast. So I'm going to spend an entire episode on that and give you some tools that you can start to use to not only tap into your 3X vision, but begin to use your 3X vision to work for you. So the first thing that I want to point out to you is what a 3X vision is. So a 3X vision for your career is 3 promotions from now. Where do you want to be 3 promotions from now? That is the very basic concept. So it's not your next promotion or even the one after that. It is the one after that. And this is really important because the point of the 3X vision is to get you out of the practical and get you into what's possible. So we're not looking at our 3X vision as something that we actually know how to obtain or we know how we're going to get there. We're using our 3X vision as a guidepost to make decisions in the present moment. So that is the purpose of the 3X vision. I'll give you an example, talking about writing my book. When I get stuck in the present moment, it is usually because I am trying to make the right decision. I'm trying to make this book perfect. I want it to be really, really good. I get hung up on all of the different concepts that I teach, and I want to put everything into one book. And I was actually having this problem come up for me recently. And I was like telling my husband, I was like, I'm just so stuck. I'm staring at the page. I'm moving words around. I'm not actually writing. I don't know how to get through this. And he offered some really great advice, which was, remember, you have another book coming after this one. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. So I wrote a book. This is my second book. I plan to write a third book and a fourth book and a fifth book. And essentially, my 3X vision is I am a person who writes books. I write books. I contribute to my thought leadership. I give to you what I'm thinking about, practical tools over and over and over and over again. So that's my long-term vision, that I am a person, I am an author, I am a person who writes books, who contributes to society, that has a wealth of knowledge out in the world. And when I think of it like that, then heck yeah, I got to get my book written, right? This is just my second book. I have a lot more work to do. And when we're thinking about your promotion, I really want you to understand that your next promotion is just a promotion, right? You have a 3X vision. You have so many more promotions to go before you retire. You have so much more badass knowledge to bring to the world, so much more badass leadership to bring to your company, to other organizations, to even bigger than you can ever even imagine right now. And so if that doesn't motivate you in the present, or it does motivate you in the present, that's just the truth of it, right? When we feel stuck, when we feel like the next step is really hard and we want to get it right and we're going through perfectionism and we're not quite sure what to do next, it's usually because we're thinking too small. We're not thinking to that 3X vision. So what's coming up for people inside of Executive Ahead of Time is really they're revisiting their original 3X vision. So if this is the first time you're introduced to this concept with me, congratulations, welcome. It's going to change your life. And I want you to just keep it super simple. Answer the question for you. What do you want 3 promotions from now, right? So if you are a senior director, then maybe it's your C-suite title. If you are looking to move into a vice president role, maybe it is you're at senior manager and maybe it's your VP title, right? It can be really as simple as that. At first, that's going to sound like kind of boring and just sort of like, oh, okay, that's fine. What else might come up for you is you might think to yourself, well, that's not really what I want. I don't know if I want to be in the C-suite. And so you're just going to pick something, right? So just make it up. Remember, it doesn't need to actually be able to happen. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. You don't have to know if you really, really want to be a chief people officer or not. You're just imagining, if I could be a chief people officer on my terms, it doesn't even have to be at your current organization under your current situation. If I could be a chief people officer on my terms, would I want to be one? And then just write that down as your 3X vision. So that's the place that I always start with everyone, is just like that very basic, bare bones, just own it. You're never going to make it to your next promotion if you can't own the path that you want to be on, if you don't want to be on a path towards leadership, right? We just want you to start owning that is what you desire. And you can always add in the caveat on my terms, because I know we don't have a lot of great role models out there. And so if you feel like being in the C-suite just sounds like hell on earth, that's because of the people that you're surrounded by who are currently in the C-suite that are not emulating the type of role that you want. So you can always add on my terms, or in my way, or with work-life balance, or with time still for my family, or as a thought leader, like whatever that might be for you. So that's the first place that you're going to start with your 3X vision. Well, now I have so many women up-leveling their 3X vision that I just had to share some of this with you. And I'm just really, really excited about some of the emails and the situations that have been happening. There is a woman just last week, inside of Executive Ahead of Time, who was getting a little bit hung up on exactly what her 3X vision was. She's been in Executive Ahead of Time for over a year, and her original 3X vision felt very clear, but it was title-based, right? And as she has started to take steps forward, she realizes, she's like, well, I could go this direction, or I could make a decision and go that direction, and this other person's giving me advice. And what has happened is she's turned that 3X vision, that possibility vision, into reality. And now she's taken steps to get there, and it's starting to feel heavy and hard. And I told her that she had to get out of her head about her 3X vision and reconnect with her heart, her intuition, what she really wanted. And I said, the only criteria for your 3X vision right now at this next level is for it to either make you laugh really hard or make you want to throw up. And by throw up, I just mean like, oh my gosh, that sounds so scary. I don't even know if I could do that. Or laugh really hard at the ridiculousness of it. So let me give you an example. My 3X vision for a very long time was to give a TED Talk. And now that I am much closer to giving a TED Talk, that vision feels really small to me. It feels very practical. It doesn't inspire me. It feels like, okay, that sounds great. Like I still want to do it. I'm very excited to do it, but it feels like my next promotion, right? And when I think about my 3X vision, it's that I want to be on Oprah Super Soul Sunday. See, I can't even say that without laughing. Because it is so exciting. I'm like, of course I'm going to be on Oprah Super Soul Sunday. I have no idea how. I better get going on writing my books and spreading my message and getting more and more of you promoted. But it's just so big and so fun and exciting. And that's what I want your 3X vision to be like for you. So I said that to her. I said, what really makes you laugh or makes you want to throw up? And she said, I want to be a project manager for NASA. And then she busted out laughing. And I was like, great, we're on the right track. And then literally in that moment, because Executive Ahead of Time is filled with an incredible group of women, and the way I lead our weekly coaching calls is that everybody has a voice, meaning it's not just me coaching you. It is everybody pitching in. If they have something to share or advice to add, they raise their hand and they interject. And we just have this really incredible, lively conversation every Wednesday at 4:00 p.m. Eastern. So that's the call that we were on. And she said that, busted out laughing. We got lots of hand clapping emojis popping up on the Zoom screen. And then one woman said, I know a bunch of project managers at NASA. That's like my whole neighborhood. And everybody's like face just dropped. Like, what? Are you kidding me? And she's like, well, I could introduce you to some of them. And she's like, oh my God, of course. Yes, please. And in that single moment, she took her 3X vision and actually made it a reality, actually made it possible. Not only is her 3X vision now possible, it might actually happen. And that's the other thing about that 3X vision is that you go from the giggling or the stomach upset, like you might throw up, and then you say, oh crap, I could actually do that. I had a woman that I worked with who was a HR consultant, and she said that she wanted to be a chief people officer, and she laughed and she was like, yeah, I want to be a chief people officer, but I don't want to lead. I don't want to be a people leader at all. She was like, very, very clear on her requirement financially. She did not want to lead people. She wanted to lead an organization that was 500 people or smaller, like all of these different things. And she's laughing hysterically at the ridiculousness of it. And then I remember on the coaching conversation, her eyes changed and she's like, oh my God, that could actually happen. I could actually do that. So like my 3X vision with Oprah is like, I laugh, but I'm like, oh my God, I could actually do that. And it is just so profound and so exciting. I want to share with you another 3X vision that's transformed over the past couple of years that I've been working with another woman. So same. Her 3X vision was to be like, I think a vice president of research and development at an organization. And then we got really juicy this past year and upped her game a little bit. She started to get it into more feeling words rather than the title itself. And she was using the term science and imagination, that she was somebody that led a team in the intersection of science and imagination. And that got her really fueled and very excited. And it was very clear to her what roles she should take next, how she should speak about what it is that she does. And she just started to really get behind that. And she was listening to something on YouTube, I guess, and there was President Obama talking about the intersection of science and imagination. And in that moment, she was actually in DC at the time that she was listening to this, and she looked up and she saw the White House. And then I just got goosebumps actually saying the story. She said, I'm going to speak at the White House someday about something that really freaking matters. That's it. I'm going to speak at the White House someday about the intersection of science and imagination in a way that really freaking matters. That is her new 3X vision. And it probably makes her stomach hurt a little bit, but it could actually happen. It's huge. It is huge. If you start to do this work of 3Xing your vision, the possibilities become so open and so limitless, and it makes everything that you're doing right now feel so clear and also insignificant. So when you start thinking about that terrible relationship that you have with your boss, ask yourself, when I have my 3X vision, does my boss even matter? And if the answer is no, then start building relationships with other people besides your boss, because truthfully, your boss doesn't actually matter, right? In the long term. So we're thinking about all this energy that we're putting into one person or one situation or one promotion. And the truth is, your next promotion is actually just at the beginning. There are so many more badass things that you need to be doing with the rest of your career. So let's get it over with. Now, if you're listening to this episode and it feels a little too visionary, too woo, too out there to really go this big into this big visionary place, then that's okay. Bring it back to reality. Just say your title 3 promotions from now. What do you want? And now I'm going to give you an example of a woman who used her 3X vision to actually get promoted to the C-suite. So she was a senior vice president, and originally when she created her 3X vision, it was to make it to chief sales officer. And she always knew that she wanted to be chief sales officer someday. And she was using that in conversation with her CEO, with other executives at her company. Like, my long-term vision is to become chief sales officer. And she just kept saying that out loud. And then eventually she became senior vice president, and she just kept trying that out and saying it out loud and saying her vision was to become chief sales officer someday. So when the opportunity presented itself, she said, that role really aligns with my vision to become chief sales officer. And the person on the receiving end said, I agree. Sounds good. Let's make it happen. Right? So that's an example of her actually realizing her 3X vision. Because if we don't have the vision, then we don't know what we're saying yes to when the time presents itself. right? We're not able to raise our hand for that next opportunity because we're so caught up in what's not working or how hard things feel, or I don't really know how that's going to work itself out, that we forget to actually raise our hand to say yes for the thing. So that's an example, a very practical example that even at the very least, just owning the title that you want 2 or 3 promotions from now is such a huge indicator of whether or not you're actually going to get it in your career, in your lifetime. It is so important. Now I want to help you troubleshoot if you're actually having trouble coming up with your 3X vision. So I already spoke to the fact that you might be thinking of it a little bit too practically. And let me share with you that what I think of as the definition between goals and vision, right? So goals I see as something that you can actually obtain, that there's a step-by-step process to get to your next promotion, right? There is a process and we can actually lay out and we can say, this is my goal. This is what I'm going to do to get there. And you're going to make strides every single day to get closer and closer and closer to that goal. A vision is something that we have no idea how we're going to get to it. And so the first thing that I really want you to see if you're having trouble and you're getting stuck is open your mind to the possibility of visioning versus goal setting. Now, the other thing that tends to happen for us is we set a vision out there, and there's research on why vision boards don't work. And it's because if we never create a step-by-step plan to get to that vision, then it really does seem so unobtainable. And if you believe in manifestation or the universe, if you ever watch the movie The Secret and they talk about setting these big goals and, if you just believe hard enough, you will achieve. And actually, that's not true at all, I don't think. And I think what ends up happening is we create this vision for ourselves and then we follow it up with a story that we can never have that vision. And so we're basically telling the universe that we can't be CFO someday. Even though our 3X vision is to become CFO, we keep looking at that goal as something that is so unobtainable and so impossible to get because we're still looking at it as a goal and not a vision. And so we're not actually realizing it because we're telling the universe, we're manifesting over and over again the lack of becoming CFO. So hopefully that makes sense to you. It makes a lot of sense to me. But I really want you to think about that. Sometimes when we set these 3X visions or we have that vision board, we're looking at that vision board in lack. And so what we have to do is we have to set that 3X vision out there, grandiose. I'm going to be on Oprah someday. But the way I'm going to keep that vision, that long-term vision in possibility instead of lack, I'm not on Oprah yet, right? Is we're going to take steps today to get there, right? Those are the practical steps. That's your next promotion. We're going to set it and forget it, our 3X vision, and then we're going to work our way backwards with short and simple things that we can do in the next 6 to 8 weeks to get closer to our 3X vision. And that's how we continue to stay in that land of possibility. And that's when the universe starts to work in our favor. That's when we get open to receiving. We start having 15-minute ally meetings. We're saying things like, that really aligns with my goal to be chief sales officer someday. We're willing and open for other people to create opportunities for us is because we're taking small, simple steps today to get closer to our inevitable long-term 3X vision. So that's how we're going to start to use our 3X vision and make it practical, make it actually possible for us. Because if we just keep thinking about how, that would be nice someday, then we're staying in that lack place. And now I want to give you the icing on the entire cake. Everything that I've been talking about in today's episode has been about professional development, your career development, how to 3X the vision for yourself and your career, and then take practical steps to get there. But here's the thing. What is it that C-suite executives do. What is executive presence? What is executive level communication? It's knowing how to speak to the vision, but then take practical steps today to get there. When you think about your goals in terms of executive presence, executive communication, how you want to be better at your role, generally speaking, a lot of that is going to come down to being able to speak to the long-term vision of the organization, what matters to the executive team, what matters to your CEO, and then bringing your team along to take practical steps in the short term to get to those long-term goals. So you're starting to practice this on your own career path, but what you're doing is you're becoming a better executive all along the way. You're working on your executive communication skills through your own career development path. You see how this works? You see how amazing this is? You see how setting your 3X vision yesterday is so important and is going to not only change the trajectory of your career and what's possible for you, it's going to make you a better executive leader all along the way. This is everything that I do. This is why I know that you as a corporate badass are going to go to the leadership table and change that leadership table. Because through your own 3Xing of your own vision, you are creating a new way of communicating. You are building your own confidence and executive communication skills so that when you do manifest your 3X vision, you are such a killer executive leader that you are completely unstoppable. It is amazing. I have seen it work over and over and over and over again. I want you to try it out. If you don't have a 3X vision, figure it out today. Just say, where do I want to be 3 promotions from now? If you've done this work with me already, whether it's because of a previous podcast episode or you're in executive ahead of time already, then I want you to think, what's the up level of my 3X vision? What makes me giggle? What makes me want to throw up? What do I really, 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 really want out of my career? And if you want to just play around with it even more, think about when I retire, where do I want to be? How do I want to be treated? Who do I want to be meeting with? What is my day going to look like? All of that is available to you now. And then you're going to take that impractical vision and turn it into the practical. What are the steps that I can take today to get closer to my 3X vision? What can I accomplish? What promotion do I need? What relationships do I need to build in the next 6 to 8 weeks to make that 3X vision even more and more inevitable? I'm so excited to see what is next for you. Shoot me a note. Let me know what 3X vision you came up with. Better yet, join us inside of Executive Ahead of Time. Like I said, I don't know if the discounts will still be available when this podcast episode comes out, but I'm doing massive discounting on Executive Ahead of Time because I really want as many of you as possible to get inside there and to get working on those super practical steps so that we can really start to change the future of leadership. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye.